Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
Welcome to Big Questions. This week's question is, what is the most important thing we can do to preserve and strengthen our democracy? And I'm talking about the United States. That's where we are. Or maybe you think we shouldn't preserve our democracy. Maybe you think less democracy and more autocracy is the way to go. That's up to you. I happen to like our democracy, and I like to preserve and strengthen it. And I also want to say I'm not a political scientist, as you probably know.
You play one on TV.
I might not even be a musician, but that's.
We know you can't play guitar. The Germans told us.
But I am a person who believes that you can be critical of your country or your government and still love it. As long as the criticism is constructive and it's aimed to improve and not destroy the country. I think it's healthy. It's part of our democracy. Of course, everyone knows that. We have the freedom to speak out and to protest. But what is wrong with our democracy? Well, according to this thing called the Democracy Index, do you know what that is? No, it's something. I think the magazine The Economist is involved with it, but it's a rating they've been doing it for years, for countries around the world to see how they compare with each other on how democratic they are. And it's rated on the categories of electoral process and pluralism, civil liberties, functioning of government, political participation, and political culture.
Is it tied to the doomsday clock?
No, I don't think it is. I think
No,
I'll put a Wikipedia article in the things in the notes, and you can see. And we used to be what they called a full democracy, but since the year 2016, I wonder what happened. We are now called a flawed democracy, which is one step below the best you can be. And then in the rating system, we've gone down. We are now number 26 out of all the countries. Our Canadian neighbors to the north are number 12. And in case you want to know who's number one, it's Norway. So maybe we should look to Canada and Norway to see what they're doing right. Maybe that's the solution. I think one of the problems with our democracy is that there's a lack of trust in it by a lot of people. They think government is the problem. People have lost trust in government, thanks in part to corruption, distortions and falsehoods, or misleading facts perpetrated in part by elected officials and in part by unscrupulous media. Who lies. What happened in 2016 is Donald Trump got elected. How could that happen? How could people be so unintelligent as to vote for him? Let stupid people vote in the United States as well as smart people. Maybe we shouldn't. But then how do you determine who's? I could be a stupid person, so I would lose my right to vote. I probably would. But how did this happen? I believe the problem lies in part due to our education system, which is flawed, our public education system. And that's my answer is education reform, more than anything else, more than campaign reform, campaign finance reform. I think education reform is what we need to do at a national level, because we have complete inequity in education as far as it goes. Wealthy people can send their kids to private schools and get a good education. Also, if they could live in good places where the public schools are good, and that's questionable if there's any place like that left. but it's not turning out smart people who can basically think for themselves and to see through the lies and the bull crap and make informed decisions, because a democracy relies on people being able to make informed decisions, not misinformed decisions. People who can see political ads and realize that they're crap, or look at who's behind them and figure out what's going on here. And I'm not saying a democracy has to be that everybody agrees on everything, which was what some people might think. If you don't agree with me, then you hate our country and you don't belong here. But it works with compromise, but to have good compromise, you need intelligent, informed people who are critical thinkers. And our education system does not support that at all. So that's my answer, is education reform at the national level.
Cool.
Well said, young man. Well
Yeah.
said.
I'm just going to say what Joe said.
But the Germans still hate his guitar playing.
Well, you posted on your bootleg of the month a German Dead Milk or show in Germany.
That guy likes this. Klaus. His name's Klaus.
There's a democracy that's pretty good. Germany. I don't know. I guess the standard response would be vote, right? Strengthen and preserve democracy, which you should. I think we should figure out another way to have the electoral college work, or maybe just not have it. And maybe regulate like the pensions of these legislators and senators, because this seems a little outrageous. You could do like one term and then the rest of your life you're taken care of. Thank you for your service. But it also fucks with how they make laws. So when there's people, different kinds of interest. I don't know if every country has to go through that has a democracy, but we certainly do. There's a lot of greed, and I think capitalism and democracy are kind of, I don't know. They've always seemed kind of like they wouldn't really go well together. But what do I know? I'm also not a political scientist. So that's what I'm going to say.
I majored in political science and you ended up in the same band with me.
Hey.
So,
Yeah, well, I had to fill in for the other guy.
So, I mean, yeah, my basic answer was exercise your right to vote is, I think, number one. But that also means you need to register to vote, and you also need to vote in not only the general election, but the primaries. And you need to vote, when it's cold and nasty outside. You need to get in line, and if it's raining or snowing or sleeting or hailing or hurricaning out there, you need to get to your polling place and cast your vote. And I know Australia has a system where I think you're required to vote, which I think would be a good thing here. If you don't vote, I think you're fined some kind of a fee or whatever. I think that might convince more people to actually cast their vote. Because if you don't vote, you don't have a voice in what's going on. At my most cynical, I say that we live in a nation of selfish morons, and which ties in with what Joe said. The education of a lot of Americans is really substandard, and that's a shame. Like Joe said, we need critical thinkers, and we need people who can look at the issues and look at the candidates, and they need to get out and cast a vote. But we have a lot of people. I think we only had, what was the number for the last presidential election? Was it only like 60 or 65% of the eligible voters voted? I can't remember. Rod, you're on mute if you're thinking
Yeah,
about.
I know I should know that, but well, I've been muted for the whole thing, but because I was
Okay.
working. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, yes, it's a basic answer to vote, but it's amazing. I run across people who say, "Oh, I don't bother to vote." Well, then you don't have a voice and you don't have an opinion. So, F you. So, anyway, I'm done.
Ralph Nader, I was once standing next to Ralph Nader when somebody who was actually from, I said, "Oh, I don't vote because it doesn't make a difference in all this." And Ralph Nader turned to him and said, this is many years ago, he said, "You know, when you don't vote, you create a vacuum and someone will fill that vacuum. And the odds of them agreeing with you politically are pretty small." So I just, for those of you, I had just made it here. We went from practice. I was at work today. We went from practice to here. As you can tell from my clothing, I am some sort of Episcopalian minister. So I literally ran up the stairs, said hi to my wife, and jumped in here. So I've been kind of working on my notes. So I'm going to say maybe, and this is just a hypothetical, but maybe people should think twice before they take their political advice from entertainers. My fellow band members are some of the nicest, smartest, articulate, well-read people I know. I think of these guys like brothers, but the question is, are we qualified to dispense political advice? We may be probably one of the most qualified groups of entertainers to dispense political advice, but being the most qualified group of entertainers to dispense political advice is kind of like being the thinnest kid at fat camp, or it's kind of like you've got a group of surgeons. They're all drunk. One guy's a little less drunk than the others. He's the most qualified to operate, but is he qualified to operate? Maybe not. One of the things that worries me about this is I'm afraid that if we say it's okay to listen to entertainers like us, and it may be, these guys say very smart things, but if we're saying that, does that make it okay to listen to Herschel Walker and Dr. Oz, two entertainers who got into politics, who are both running for the Senate? And I know what you're saying. Herschel Walker, I'm saying he's an entertainer. He played football, and apparently he played football back before you needed a helmet. And Dr. Oz is just so full of shit, he squeaks going into a turn. And I will be seeing his name in Pennsylvania on a ballot if he gets the Republican nomination. This is frightening. And both of these people, entertainers, sit on presidential committees. Now, probably, if this airs on Saturday, they probably won't be on the committees by Saturday. They've been asked to leave. But the person who put them on those committees was an entertainer who went into politics. I was once watching, and we like Sinead O'Connor. We do. We like her music. We like her. I was once watching, it was the afternoon in the 90s, and I had the news on, like, we're breaking in now. Sinead O'Connor has a plan for world peace. And I'm like, put down the beer. I'm like, oh, I'll watch this. And so they had her, and they had like an activist on. I'm not making this up. Sinead O'Connor's plan for world peace was to get all the children of the world to sing a song. That was it. And the activist, you can find this. I'm sure it's out on YouTube. The activist said, what? I got up early and got dressed to come down here for this Pollyanna idiot. Do you know who people got mad at? They got mad at the activist. They were like, how dare you question Sinead O'Connor? And that's the same kind of thing. You know, Joe is a smart, wonderful person. He could have started off tonight's thing by saying, I think the best thing that we could do to increase democracy is for all of us together on the top of a high building tomorrow and jump off. Somebody in the comment section went, yeah, that works for me. And if I would have said, or one of us would have said, you know, maybe we shouldn't jump off the building, somebody would have said, you shut up, man. He sang on Punk Rock Girl. And I'm no sheep. I'm going to follow him off that building.
Is there a third option?
Yeah. I could have said jump off the building, and Joe could have. Let's stick with the original scenario. But what I'm saying is maybe when an entertainer talks, maybe we can put a disclaimer under them. When I saw Jon Stewart speak at the rally for fear of sanity or fear or sanity, whatever, before Jon Stewart came out to speak about politics, they showed a clip of him in the faculty where he gets stabbed in the eye with a pencil. And it really kind of thought, yeah, okay, this guy's going to speak to us about what we should do. But he was in the faculty getting stabbed in the eye with a pencil. And part of the other problem is nobody ever questions entertainers. Entertainers are used to people saying, I love what you do, you're wonderful. So an entertainer can come out and say something like, you know, what's your plan for world peace? I think we can get all the children in the world to sing a song. And nobody ever says, Well, how does that help fight the voter suppression laws that were passed in 19 states last year? Or does that mean we should expand the Supreme Court? Or does that mean we should, again, like I said, abolish the Electoral College? Ask an entertainer after they give you their plan to explain how the Federal Reserve Bank works. I'm willing to bet some of them will go, it's Jews, or others will be like, it's the Illuminati. And we're watching you, Mel Gibson, ass kicking. You're in line for one. You're on our list, motherfucker. So I'm just saying, cults, I've noticed, tend to prey upon entertainers. They prey upon sad, lonely, delusional individuals. Yeah, entertainers. 16% of Americans believe that there's something to this QAnon thing. And I'm willing to bet a lot of those people are entertainers. We know Roseanne Barr is one. It also means that 16% of Americans played a lot of football without a helmet. So now at this point, some of you are probably saying, wait a minute, what about Zelensky? Zelensky is a brave man. He was a comedian. He was an entertainer. Folks, for every one Zelensky, there are 10,000 Kid Rocks out there. So if I can get serious for 1 minute, I am an entertainer who does hold office. It's a minor office. I took it because I was infuriated when I saw no name when I was voting in that section. So I wrote my name in and I got a thing back and it said, hey, you won. If you don't want to serve in office, and I knew right then, I have to take classes on Saturdays, folks. So there are Saturdays, instead of lying in bed, I'm taking classes so I can do my political office. And this isn't a stepping stone to other things. This is something I have to do because nobody else was doing it. But when I got this letter, I knew something. I knew that one out of every three people who holds an office like I hold received a death threat last year. And I didn't write resign and send it in because that's what you can do. I went forward and I said, I'm going to do this because I thought, yeah, I talked a lot, but I should do something. Okay. And by the way, the people who sent the death threats, they had been spurred on. They were fans of two entertainers who decided to get into politics. One of those entertainers' wife is getting banged by Pete Davidson right now. I didn't stay serious for very long, I know. You know what? Both their wives. Let's just assume Pete Davidson is banging both. Let's go, Pete Davidson. Love that guy. But I'm just saying, these are the people who put in death threats because former entertainers who got into politics told them to do it. So like I said, I decided step up, stop talking, do something. So please, folks, when an entertainer talks, they could be saying, like my friends here said, very smart things, but also judge them not only by what they say, by what they do. So thank you for listening to me. But if you didn't listen to me, if you just hit the mute button because I'm an entertainer, that works too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Recommendations. I want to recommend a album that just came out this month. It's called Plosivs. It's by a band called Plosivs, and that's what it is. They're, I guess, considered kind of like a super group of punk rock because they're made up of members of Heavy Vegetable, got the Pinback Against Me, Rocket from the Crypt. To me, sounds like it's Rob Crow singing a lot, so it sounds like Pinback on steroids. And it's definitely faster and punkier than Pinback ever were. 10 songs in 33 minutes. It's just called Plosivs, and it's out there for your listening pleasure.
I don't have much to recommend, but I did when I was reading about democracy right before we joined this meeting. I saw that there's a Crow Nation of Montana. It's people that live in the United States, but it's a sovereign country. And I was reading their constitution and bylaws, and it's pretty cool. I'm going to recommend just checking that website out, their official website. And it made me think, not everybody has the I guess it's a privilege to be able to do that because they come from people who were here before the Europeans were. So they have a right to be able to do that, which I think is pretty cool. And I don't know, I would recommend if anybody has heritage, maybe consider doing that somewhere. You know, maybe these pop up little sovereign nations and with indigenous people. That's it.
My recommendations this evening are for all you mother scratchers out there. I've been listening to in my car only BBC Radio 6 music through Apple Music. It's the British BBC music, one of their music channels. It plays a lot of new and old music. And driving home from rehearsal tonight, there seemed to be a theme. It was about mothers or moms or mums, as they say in England. And they played a couple of songs, and I made a little voice memo in my car, so I had to remember what they were. And I checked them out on YouTube, and I recommend you check them out too. There's maybe one serious, one kind of silly or fun, and one classic. The first one is by an artist called Helen Love, which is actually, I think, a band. They've been around for a long, long time, apparently. But they have a new record out, and the song is called Clearing Out Mom's House, which is she's singing about clearing out her mother's house. I guess her mother just passed away. It's bubblegummy and serious at the same time, so it's kind of an interesting little thing to check out. We'll provide the link to that. The second song is called My Mom Is Going to Iceland by a band called Bennet, who apparently were a big band in England in the 90s.
Fire Saga.
So yeah, it's a pretty funny song. I liked it. It's sort of power pop-ish, but I thought the title was pretty amusing and the song was entertaining. And the last one it's a classic, and we've mentioned him before on the show. It's Bob Dylan. It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, which is about 7 minutes long. It's just a pretty intense song. Apparently he wrote it when he was in his 20s, which is pretty incredible. So check those out. That's my recommendations for tonight.
In the words of Bob Dylan, my mother punched me in the nose when I was young, and I owe her my career. Anyway, I'm going to recommend, first off, an episode of the show Half in the Bag, which you can watch on YouTube. It's where the two guys review the movie Verotika. And let me tell you, it was wonderful seeing two other people suffer through a movie that I watched on a dare during the height of the pandemic. I was talking to another horror enthusiast, and I said, what do we do? We could run out of food and toilet paper. What if we run out of horror movies? He goes, God, what if we have to watch Verotika, which is on Shudder? Folks, Verotika is a film directed and written by Glenn Danzig. Yes, the man who was really upset that the cheese in his French onion soup wasn't melted. Some of our younger viewers might be surprised to learn that you could once talk about the Misfits without using the word D-bag, but this film is absolutely horrible. I mean, it is like, it's got a ton of nudity in it, and I still didn't like it. The women are beautiful, and they could probably act, and they could probably do something if they were given something to do. But the stories go nowhere. It's really weird. Don't watch the movie. Watch the Half in the Bag review of it. But Glenn Danzig is another entertainer you might want to think twice before you listen to. Apparently he heard Bill Maher, who has always been a total ass, talk about wokeness and political correctness, and then Danzig started complaining about those things. So damn it, if it weren't for wokeness and political correctness, I'm sure Verotika would have swept the Oscars. Up next, it is a video game that I love, and I got tiny little snippets during the last couple of weeks of just a few free minutes here and there, and I've been playing it for a couple of weeks now, and I finally finished it. It's called Stories Untold. It's a weird take on many of you, again, or if you're too young to remember when you could talk about the Misfits without occasionally bringing up D-bag, you probably don't remember these sort of text games from the 80s, and that's what this is, sort of. It starts out that way, but it becomes interlaced with a whole bunch of stuff. There's 4 chapters to it. It is absolutely amazing, very creepy, and the music in the background. I sent it out to the guys. I don't know if they had a chance to listen. It's this weird, like sort of John Carpenter-esque. It's very well done. I bought the soundtrack for like $2, which was like 4 songs, but I was really impressed. But yeah, I can tell you right now, Stories Untold costs about $10. You want to get that. and you'll get a lot of entertainment out of it. Play it in the dark with the lights out. And then the final thing I'm going to recommend is this book, The Troop. It's very scary, very disturbing, but it has nothing to do with F Troop. My theatrical agent sent it to me. They're going to make a movie, an F Troop movie. That's why the book is brand new. It arrived the other day, and I'm like, this is about Boy Scouts. There's no part in here. I'm too old to play a Boy Scout. What the hell is this? So so those are my recommendations. All kind of horror related, and they all kind of loop back to entertainers. So thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
Can I go now? I'm supposed to meet Paul Manafort at the airport. Bye. Oh, yeah. You ever see the movie Common Law Cabin?
no.
All right, people, stop what you're doing and go rent Common Law
All
Cabin.
right, bye.
All right, bye.